Again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Tuesday's edition of Alaska Weather on the 13th day of October 2020. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, we've got hazardous weather graphics, but all three graphics here are blank, so that means no watches, advisories, or warnings out public-wise for the entire state for the next couple of days, again, due to the jet stream being well to the south and no big storms coming into the picture, although there is a pretty active system that will begin to affect the far western Bering Sea, southwestern Bering Aleutians here late tonight, actually tomorrow, and into Thursday, but not strong enough to where it would kick off any at least high wind warnings or anything of that nature, especially out in the western Aleutians way out there. So going on to satellite imagery, not a lot on here. You can see pretty much north to south flow of cold air coming down from the Russian Far East and the Arctic into the northern Bering Sea, where it's pretty much lower topped solid clouds there from the southern Chukchi Sea through the Bering Strait right across St. Lawrence Island and clipping the west side of Nunivak Island to the Pribilofs. Is some precipitation in there, but it's on the light side, a few hundredths of an inch there at the St. Paul, St. George area in the last 12 hours. And then south of there, you get into more of a clearing type pattern with just isolated and scattered showers and a little breezy on the northwest winds, but not too bad, 20, 25 miles an hour, Alaska Peninsula area. And about, let's see, Tuksuk Bay, one of the stronger wind gusts there, they had gusts to 30 miles an hour to the north and northwest. Otherwise, up to the north there, or I mean, not to the north, St. George had a gust of 30 miles an hour, as did Adak out of the north-northwest, and the winds lighten up as you get closer to the high-pressure ridge out toward Shimia, and a little bit of clearing even out that way, and some good clearing over the southwest interior, Yukon Delta, Kuskokwim Delta, partly sunny conditions into Bristol Bay and the Kuskokwim Valley, and a lot of clearing over the western interior. You can see Norton Sound and most of the Seward Peninsula, central and eastern areas across into the Noatak Valley, Coldbuck Valley, and most of the Koyukuk, pretty well cloud-free, and also along the Yukon River until you get up toward the flats and you pick some clouds up there. And some light snow falling over the eastern interior up toward the Alaska Range. About a quarter of an inch possibly around Eagle or so. Very light. Delta Junction did pick up possibly an inch of snow in the last 12 hours based on what their water equivalent report was, and temperature about 24 degrees, so really not melting. Now, Fairbanks, on the other hand, right at the frost point, and really not much in the way of snow falling there. They're kind of on the edge of the clouds, and then areas of light snow showers down into the Alaska Range. Some sunshine this afternoon, Cook Inlet, Madawaska-Susitna Valley, as well as the Copper River Basin and the North Gulf Coast, with just some isolated shower activity around. Light rain with that system south of Kodiak Island. That brought 17 hundredths of an inch to both Kodiak and Akiak. And again, out to the west, showers brought about 1/10 of an inch of precipitation to Cold Bay. Most everywhere else had something less, and precipitation showers are tending to end across the southeast coast this afternoon with a few sun breaks. And rolling this through again, you can see really no any big storminess. Is that weak disturbance there around Kodiak with the center to the south, and another weak trough off the southeast coast, and basically northerly flow just picking up moisture and creating light rain showers from the Pribilofs on down to the east central Aleutians, the Alaska Peninsula. Weak low bringing the precipitation to Kodiak Island. Forecast for tonight, showers linger but tend to diminish there along and north of the Alaska Range from the northeastern Kuskokwim Valley eastward across the portions of the Tanana Valley. Maybe a couple of snow showers in the White Mountains there north of Fairbanks, but nothing significant. And that extends over toward, again, Delta Junction. And light winds with light gradient. Now from the Arctic coast, winds are light all the way down into the Gulf of Alaska. That low, very weak there southeast of the Kenai Peninsula. That'll keep a risk of a shower or two south side of the peninsula on the coast, Montague Island, maybe the North Gulf Coast. Could be some rain or snow showers over the southeast interior, depending on your elevation and time of day. Or evening, night. Anyway, scattered showers linger over the panhandle, and high pressure really building in over the western Bering and ridging into the northern Bering Sea with 1026 millibar center there near the Bering Strait. High pressure eastern north slope really dominates the entire area up there into the Yukon River Valley. And we'll see the front that's just making it out of the picture tonight, way out west, pushes eastward, begins to increase the winds toward gale force conditions over the far western Aleutians tomorrow afternoon, with the rain staying a little bit farther to the west. High pressure, mostly clear skies, hopefully. Definitely be dry with light winds for the central Aleutians in toward the Fox Islands. Still a risk of a shower along the Alaska Peninsula in Bristol Bay, but that's really not significant at all. Probably won't see much in the way of anything. Better chance of seeing some sunshine on the south side of the peninsula, Sandpoint to Chignik, with offshore flow or downsloping conditions. And a weak trough, chance of showers, Kodiak Island, chance of showers, Kenai Peninsula, risk of a shower at Cook Inlet, mostly cloudy, and light rain possible in North Gulf Coast. Again, all that precipitation will be very light, and snow showers continue possibly for the central Upper Tanana Valley, mid Tanana Valley toward Eagle, and to a lesser extent for the North Slope, with high pressure keeping the winds light now along the Arctic coast. Better chance for showers for the Panhandle. And for Thursday, that strong front really kicks the winds up over the northwestern Bering Sea, possibly storm force winds in the narrow band in advance of the cold front there. But gales for the Aleutians, west central Aleutians, progressing toward Adak with increasing chances of rain. High pressure makes for light winds and maybe a fair amount of clearing there for the southwest coast from the Fox Islands right up into the central interior. And then a trough, chance of snow showers along the eastern border, the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and a weather system pushes moderate rain into the southern Panhandle with something of an increase in the winds, but not too strong, with showers extending westward into Prince William Sound, but just a chance. And for the lows tonight, 35 to 40, call it, for the southeast coast and near 40 Kodiak Island. Upper 20s to lower 30s, south central Alaska. Upper teens to mid-20s for the Copper River Basin, a shade below zero there for the Brooks Range. Actually at 3 p.m. this afternoon, Adigan Pass sitting at 4 below. And teens and single numbers for the North Slope, and 30s out over the Bering Sea. Highs for tomorrow, 45 to 53, say, for the southeast coast, warmest in the south. And upper 30s to lower 40s for the Copper River Basin. In the 40s, south central Alaska to the Kenai Peninsula, near 50 for Kodiak. Mid to upper 20s, central interior. Mid-teens in the Brooks Range in the North Slope, and upper teens to mid-20s for the Arctic coast, coldest in the east. And for the lows on Thursday morning, again, either side of zero for the Brooks Range and North Slope, and 5 to 10 for the upper Yukon, Koyukuk, Kobuk Valley areas, to near 20 out towards Noatak, and then mid to upper 20s for the Seward Peninsula. Single numbers in teens, central interior, 25 to 35 southern Alaska, followed by highs, 40 to 45 southern Alaska, with mid-20s in the...
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving to flying weather, we've got some IFR for the central and western Arctic coast, south of Point Ley to a certain extent, and then marginal VFR on down to Cape Lisburne, Point Hope though, Kivalina, northwest coast, Kotzebue Sound, as well as the Noatak Valley, and then along and south of the Brooks Range, or south of the Brooks Range into the Yukon Flats area, and then also VFR right on down the Yukon River Valley on out to the Delta, Kuskokwim Delta, VFR, and most of Bristol Bay until you get over toward the Aleutian Range and the eastern Alaska Peninsula, marginal VFR, western Alaska Peninsula, and we've got a band of marginal VFR from the Bering Strait to St. Lawrence Island, southward across the Pribilofs and the eastern Aleutians, but widespread VFR for the western central Bering Sea, as well as areas from say just east of Atka, all the way out to the Komondorskis. Southeastern, southeast coast, IFR, otherwise mostly marginal with some scattered areas of VFR. Central and north coast, Yakutat VFR, most of the Copper River Basin there, pretty much VFR. And then for the afternoon, it looks mostly VFR for the Copper River Basin and some lingering marginal VFR there for the central Tanana Valley and either side of the central and western Alaska Range, all the way down to Kodiak Island. And pretty good VFR there for Kiska Island over to Nikolsky, Pribilofs VFR, marginal VFR St. Lawrence Island, and then some IFR there with the next system just approaching Chimney and Attu, and by Thursday morning we'll be across those areas and pressing in toward Kiska Island. Bering Sea, though, widespread VFR over most of the area with marginal conditions, St. Lawrence Island through the Bering Strait up to Point Hope and the western central interior VFR. And some IFR there for western Prince William Sound across the Talkeetnas and along and south of the Alaska Range into the central Copper River Basin and on down to the eastern North Gulf Coast, Cape Yakataga to Yakutat. IFR, mostly marginal for the Panhandle, and Kodiak Island, marginal. Then that band of IFR with the front pushes eastward, encroaching on Adak in the afternoon, and staying west of St. Matthew Island. Call it Gamble, marginal, Savunga, VFR, Seward Peninsula, marginal, as well as Kotzebue Sound, the northwest coast, western central Arctic coast, VFR. Southward, good portion of the central western interior, Cook Inlet, Madanuska Valley, VFR, marginal VFR for the Madanuska Valley, IFR, western Prince William Sound, and then cutting northeastward across the Copper River Basin, and possibly catching Cantwell, but into the upper Tanana Valley, and then marginal VFR northward there to the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and a pretty good zone of IFR overspreading the central and southern southeast coast. And for Wednesday, Anaktuvuk, pretty good, marginal VFR. And Adigan for Wednesday, also occasionally marginal or mostly marginal VFR. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR. Rainy, marginal. And windy, marginal VFR also. Isabel, marginal VFR, but southern entrance VFR. And for Mentasta, that pattern also pretty good. VFR south side, otherwise through the pass marginal. And for Tanita, marginal VFR. And Portage, some IFR possible, just a risk of some IFR. Lowest conditions would be on the eastern approach tomorrow, otherwise call it marginal. And for Chilkoot and White, occasionally marginal. And for, freezing levels, 8,000 feet across the western Aleutians with 6,000 feet all the way up into the Russian coast there ahead of that, with the southerly flow in advance of that next pretty active front, 2,000 feet south of the eastern Aleutians, hugging the North Gulf Coast. And for icing, areas of isolated moderate, mostly light to isolated moderate, mixed icing there for the Tanana Valley along portion of the Alaska Range, cutting into across the Madanuska Valley and Talkeetna Mountains to the North Gulf Coast, and scattered areas over the Panhandle. And then way out west there near the Komodorskis, that's the next batch of that frontal, but that won't reach the western Aleutians at least through tomorrow afternoon, maybe evening. And the jet stream, good southerly or good west-southwest flow, turning westerly, 170 knots south of the Panhandle there, across the Queen Charlotte's northerly flow there through the Bering Strait from the Arctic Ocean, 75 knots, increasing to about 100 knots over Atka Island. And looking at 9,000 feet, high pressure, western Aleutians, north-northeast flow around that, 20 to 40 knots, and light and variable winds over interior Alaska. And not too strong actually for the southern Panhandle, light in the north, and most of the gradients south of the area there, Dixon entrance to Queen Charlotte's with that low center, 3,000 feet. Light winds southeast coast, the interior, North Gulf Coast, and Panhandle. 35 knots for the eastern Aleutians, southwest 35 western Aleutians. Occasional moderate chop out there for the far western Aleutians.
Can be many miles long, from 1 to 100 feet high, traveling at 400 miles per hour. This ocean monster is known as a tsunami, and it can wreak havoc on coastal populations and landscapes. A tsunami is a series of ocean waves caused by any large and sudden disturbance of the sea surface. Tsunamis can be generated by landslides, volcanic eruptions, or even meteorite impacts in the ocean, but they are most often caused by an earthquake where there's a sudden displacement of the ocean floor. When that happens, there's a transfer of energy from the sea floor to the ocean, causing waves on the surface to radiate outward in all directions. In deep waters, these waves may not even be detectable. But when the tsunami enters shallower waters, the wave speed slows and its height increases. The water along the coast may recede noticeably. A large wall of turbulent water, called a bore, may also form. When the tsunami hits, it may come ashore like a fast-rising flood and strike with devastating force. The series of waves may continue for hours. The first one may not be the last or the largest. For your safety, know the potential warning signs of an incoming tsunami. A strong earthquake that causes difficulty standing. A rapid rise or fall of the water along the coast. A loud ocean roar. When you're in a coastal area, it's It's important to keep alert for messages from local officials, such as lifeguards, police, the U.S. Tsunami Warning Centers, and NOAA All Hazards Radio. If you find yourself in a location of a tsunami strike, here's what you need to do to stay safe. Keep calm. Walk or run to higher ground, 100 feet above sea level or 1 mile inland. Do not drive. Keep roads open for emergency vehicles. If you cannot move to higher ground, use the stairs to get to the 3rd floor or higher in a sturdy building. Follow all instructions from local officials and stay out of coastal areas until authorities issue an all clear. Tsunamis can strike any coastline in the world and can affect locations thousands of miles away from where they formed. They may be uncommon, but the devastation they cause makes them a deadly force in nature. For more information on tsunamis, go to the following sites.
Tsunami, a killer wave, speeding across the ocean at 400 miles an hour. It smashes into land, destroying everything in its path. Tsunamis do not have a season, but they can strike any coast at any time. If one forms close to the shore, the shaking of the earth and a loud roar may warn of its approach. But when a tsunami forms across the ocean, it can take hours to reach the shore, enough time to warn people to move to higher land. Over the past 20 years, NOAA has developed DART, a real-time monitoring system that provides data for forecasting tsunamis. The DART systems have been deployed in earthquake-prone areas throughout the ocean, including the Pacific and Indian basins. A DART system combines a surface buoy and a sensor on the ocean floor. This sensor detects changes in water pressure and seismic activity and transmits the data back to the surface. If these changes indicate a tsunami may form, the buoy signals an alert via satellite to the tsunami warning centers in Alaska and Hawaii. Back at the centers, scientists plug the data into pre-existing models. These models predict the height, the arrival time, and the coastal locations that the tsunami will hit. Watches and warnings are issued to the affected communities so preparations can begin. Today, 47 DART stations are positioned all around the world, ready to detect and warn coastal communities about the next potential tsunami. With the DART system and tsunami warning centers in place, we are now better prepared to predict a killer wave before it strikes.
December 26, 2004. What began as an undersea earthquake in the Indian Ocean ended as the most deadly tsunami in recorded history, with nearly 240,000 lives lost. This was a devastating wake-up call to coastal communities and tsunami research. Prior to this event, only 6 of NOAA's Deep Ocean Assessment and Reporting of Tsunami, or DART, buoys were in place. Scientists could only predict tsunami arrival times, not flood potential. And there was not a global tsunami warning system. Today, 10 years later, we can tell a different story. U.S. and international coastlines are far better prepared for such a catastrophe, thanks in large part to research and technology developed at the NOAA Center for Tsunami Research at Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory. NOAA's DART array is now complete, with 39 buoys operated by the National Weather Service's National Data Buoy Center. Along with 21 international buoys, this array can measure a tsunami wave as small as 1 centimeter in the open ocean and provide these data in real time to forecast when a tsunami may hit the coast and how much flooding there will be. NOAA scientists and engineers are currently testing the 4th-generation DART buoy that will be able to measure local tsunamis as well as distant ones. Flooding forecast models incorporate local topography and historical tsunami data in order to more accurately predict exactly how a tsunami might behave when it reaches shore. NOAA has 75 site-specific models that can provide high-resolution flooding forecasts for effective response and mitigation during a tsunami event. NOAA has gathered data from every tsunami since 2004 to improve its forecast models. Today, it operates the world's only real-time tsunami flooding forecast system using DART data to accurately compute flooding forecasts. The NOAA Tsunami Warning Centers make tsunami data available on the internet and issue advisories, watches, and warnings through the Emergency Alert System and via NOAA weather radios. While it is impossible to prevent a tsunami, we are now much better prepared to detect them and predict their paths and impacts, so those in coastal communities can take the steps necessary to safely protect themselves.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis showing a little more ice there. You can see actually an extension right down to near, well, actually just east of Demarcation Point there. And now some white showing up there, our Barrier Island vicinity there, east of Prudhoe Bay, west of Kaktovik. So it's thickening up a little bit there, and sort of a west-southwest drift there to the heavier sea ice farther to the north, and still a zone there on the western Arctic coast, Point Lay, on up to that, whatever that cape is, to the northeast there, southwest of Wainwright. Okay, coastal water forecasts. Light winds along the coast there with out of the west-southwest on the central and south coast, 10 knots, seas 5 to 6 feet, south 10 to 15 knots on the north coast. Inside waters, light wind day tomorrow, variable to southeast at 10 with seas pretty slight at 2 feet or less. And for Thursday, swing the breeze around to the north there for Lynn Canal, 10 knots, northeast 15 Stevens Passage. Much more significant increase in the winds for Clarence Strait, southeast 30 knots, good for small craft advisories. Gales on the coast, Prince of Wales Island, southeast coming up to 40 knots, seas building to 12 feet. And then southeast 20 to 30 knots on the central coast, southeast 15 north side, or seas up there will be 6 feet. Prince William Sound tomorrow, light east winds 10 knots, seas 2 feet. Light east winds for the eastern North Gulf Coast with 4-foot seas, and light southeast winds at 10 knots for the western North Gulf Coast, seas at 3 feet. Barren Islands, really light winds for that area, east at 10, seas 3 feet, and Kamishak Bay westerlies at 15 knots. Strongest winds on the chart here, and only 15 knots. Cook Inlet, east winds at 10 knots. For Thursday, northeast 15, north of the Forelands, southern Cook Inlet, north at 15, 4-foot seas. Kamishak Bay, northwest at 20, and that'll blow right across the Barren Islands, too, with 5-foot seas. And the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, winds will be east-northeast at 15 knots. And in the case of Prince William Sound, seas will run about 2 feet and 4 to 5 feet for the North Gulf Coast. Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait, west winds 15 knots, seas 2 feet. Pretty light winds on the east side of Kodiak there at 10 knots from the north with 3-foot seas and 15-knot winds. Castle Cape to Sitkinak, Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev, northerlies at 20 knots, and Bristol Bay and the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, northerlies at 15, 3 to 5-foot seas. And for Thursday, south side, peninsula, Pacific side, Cape Sarachev to Castle Cape, north winds 20 knots, and Castle Cape to Sitkinak, north winds 20 knots. And up the east side of Kodiak Island, north winds 20 knots. Bristol Bay, Shelikof Strait, northerlies at 15. And the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, northeast 15, seas only 4 feet. Fox Islands, eastern Aleutians, north 20 knots, 5 to 8 foot seas. Adak and Atka, north 20 knots, 6 to 7 foot seas. And a little lighter, southerlies at 15 there for Amchitka Island, but gales coming into the western Aleutians tomorrow and increasing to 35 knots from the south and seas up to 13 feet. And full high-end gales for the western Aleutians Thursday, southwest 45 knots, seas 21 feet, Amchitka Island south 40, 18-foot seas, small craft advisories, central Aleutians, Adak and Atka south 25 to 30 knots, 6 to 8-foot seas. Unalaska Island, northeast 10 to 15, Unimak Island, south to southeast 10 to 20. Southwest coast, northerlies 15 to 20 knots, about the same for the Pribilofs, a little lighter for St. Matthew Island, north 15, St. Lawrence Island. And for Thursday, south 40 knots, St. Matthew Island, south 25 knots for the Yukon Delta coast and St. Lawrence Island, 20 knots out of the south of the Pribilofs. And up along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, light winds tomorrow, west-southwest at 10 knots, 2 to 3-foot seas, north 15, central and west side, back down to 10 knots from the south from Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, northeast 10, Cape Thompson to Wales. Small craft advisories coming up for the areas there Thursday, Wales to Cape Thompson and southeast 25 knots. Strongest winds will be from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort there, out of the sustained southeast 30. 25-knot winds, say up to about Point Lay, central coast, southeast at 20, and then the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline, east at 15, seas 3 feet. Tonight again, snow showers linger, but become a little less significant up there along the Alaska Range into portions of the Tanana Valley, maybe the northern Kuskokwim Valley. Dry over the interior. High pressure really building in out west there will continue to push eastward and ridge into the interior, making for dry conditions there. Still a chance of showers south central Alaska. Chance of rain north Gulf Coast. Showers Kodiak Island. Thursday, big front pushes in toward the central Bering Sea with gale force winds and increasing precipitation with a good push of warm air northward behind that warm front in the northern Bering, drying chilly over the interior.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.